guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So this week I really, try to take some time to think about what to cover in this video. I really was not sure what to do. I've been posting some of the things that I color on my personal Facebook page, and some of my friends are colorists too, and they always like it and say, oh, but I don't know how to do the shading and that kind of thing. So I figured today what we would do is colored pencils and tips for using them, how to upgrade your pictures in your coloring books. And what I've got is 10 different tips, and this video may be kind of a long one, so if you can't make it through the whole thing in one sitting, I totally understand. But we're going to go through like the top 10 things that I think are important to getting the most out of your coloring pages and making them look super nice. This is one of my favorite coloring books. This is Summer Nights by Hannah Carlson. This was originally published in Sweden. I'm still working on this page. This is the one that I've been working on for the last couple of days. And there's lots and lots and lots of little details in this. So, there's like 5 different colors. Actually more like 7 different colors of colored pencil just in here. I've got gel pen. I've used all kinds of things to make this look the way that it does. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over basically the things that I think about when I'm coloring a picture, the things that I think are important, and we'll see if that doesn't help some of you guys. Before we dive into these tips, I do just want to say colored pencils are not for everybody. Of all the mediums that you have that you can work with to color, you have paint, you have markers, you have crayons, you have colored pencils. Colored pencils are the absolute slowest. Something that you could color in maybe an hour with markers is going to take days with colored pencil. However, you can get detail with the colored pencil that you cannot get with any other medium, which is why I love it. I personally color for therapy. I color to clear my mind of everything, all the things that are bugging me at that exact moment in time, because I find when I sit down, especially with colored pencils, time just goes by so quickly. Like I'll look up and 2 hours are gone, and that's kind of what I want. It's relaxing. It's my favorite thing to do. So give colored pencils a shot. If you haven't yet and you're thinking about it, I advise you to go get you a set of, cheap Crayolas or something before you spend a bunch of money on anything. Just go get some colored pencils, whatever you can find, and do something with them. And if you find yourself too impatient, then colored pencils probably aren't for you. If you've decided that colored pencils are your thing and you're just looking for ways to get more out of them, this is going to be the video for you. The first thing that we're going to talk about today is you want to use quality supplies. That's tip number 1. I've found that things like Crayola, Prang, Dollar Store, Rose Art, Crazy Art, those colored pencils are good for beginners, for people who aren't sure whether colored pencils are right for them. That's pretty much where that stops. If you get to a point where you want to get more serious with your coloring and you want to do more professional looking pieces when you're coloring, you're going to need to use quality supplies. Now, let me move some of this stuff out of the way. And here's why. Let me grab some paper. My Crayola pencils are all put away right now. But right here I have some Prang colored pencils. I have aqua green and I have violet. The lighting is kind of bad in here today. I do apologize. But the reason is that these pencils aren't very pigmented. That's light pressure. And I have to really, really push. Like I'm afraid I'm going to break this pencil in half trying to get the color to come out. So violet's a little better. And something else you have to realize is that this paper is quality paper too. It's not, cheap coloring book paper. This is Vellum Bristol cardstock, 67 pound. This is a really good paper for colored pencils. Now the difference between those Prangs And a pencil like this, now this is a Prismacolor Premier, which is an artist grade pencil, is that I can just use light pressure and I can get that vibrancy of color. The same vibrancy of color that I had to seriously lay on, and I felt like I was going to break that pencil in half. I can get that same vibrancy with incredibly light pressure, which is what you want, because when you have a pencil that's capable of doing something like this, when it comes to layering your colors and blending your colors, you're going to have a lot easier time. It gets frustrating when you're trying to do blending and layering with student quality pencils, because they just aren't very good at it, and you're going to start trying it out and you're going to think, I just can't do this, I'm no good at it. In all actuality, it's probably not you. You're probably doing exactly what you should be, but it's just the pencils that aren't cooperating with you. So that is my first tip. One more thing, and I'm going to have to grab a pencil, so bear with me. I'm coming back, I promise. If you're not quite ready to make the jump between from your Crayola pencils to your really expensive artist grade pencils, and honestly Prismacolor's fallen in price quite a bit. You can get the whole set of 150 for like $70 right now, so they've fallen in price. If you don't want to go that route yet, these are the Prismacolor Scholar grade pencils. These are, you get 60 of them for I think somewhere between $20 and $25, and they are these are probably the best actual student grade pencils that there are. These are nice and vibrant for a student grade pencil. That's the neon orange. Here we have magenta, and you can see that these are pretty nice, and this is only medium pressure. So if you want to experiment with a better quality pencil, but you're not quite ready to commit to something as expensive as the Prismacolor Premiers, these are good. The Scholars are a good starting place. I would suggest these. I'm going to put links to everything that I'm talking about in the description, so if you want to check some of these things out, feel free to click those links. It'll take you to the best price on Amazon. Aside from pencils, you want to have good paper. The toothier paper matters when it comes to coloring. And I know that there's not a whole lot that you can do about the paper in your coloring books, but what I would suggest is trying to avoid coloring books that have paper that's really thin, like newsprint, because you're not gonna be able to do much layering and blending on that either. You're pretty much just stuck with the very basics. This is a toothy paper, so when you feel the surface, basically a toothy paper, when you feel the surface, you can feel the rough texture, and that gives it more bumps, basically, that catch the wax or the oil when you move your pencil across it. And that's kind of what you want. That's going to let you get more layers in. It's going to let you blend more easily, things of that nature. So definitely invest in a good paper. This is Nina Exact 67-pound vellum Bristol cardstock, and it's $7 for 250 sheets. So honestly, this is not very expensive, and this paper lasts ages. And this even goes in your printer if you want to print coloring pages too. So this is my recommendation for paper. Some other good pencil brands, if you are ready to make a big, more expensive investment, the Faber-Castell Polychromos are incredibly popular. They're some of the best colored pencils in the world. Those are $160 right now for the 120 set. You can also get the Dick Blick Studio Artist Colored Pencils, and those are sold at dickblick.com and in Blick art stores. Those are usually $59.99 for the set of 72, and you'll need to buy flesh tones and pinks separately because that set only comes with one pink. That's what I would recommend. So that's all I have to say about quality supplies. So we will move on to tip number 2. Practice holding your pencil. This is going to seem really silly, but another thing that my friends have told me is that they have a tendency to desk grip their pencils, and they'll color really, really hard, and that's just how they color. If you want to get the shading techniques, like you saw in the image that I showed you at the start of the video, you're going to have to train yourself out of that. You're going to have to learn how to use, light pressure. You're going to need to learn how to use medium pressures, and you're going to need to learn how to use hard pressures. And there's all kinds of variants even in between. Now, I'm a desk gripper. That's how I am. I'm also a desk gripper of pencils. So that's why I put these on the pencils that I'm actually working with. These are super cheap. They're like 10 for a buck at your local Dollar Tree. These have helped. I have calluses on the inside of my finger from holding my pencils and, you know. So these are a lifesaver. When I say practice holding your pencil, what I mean is if you want real light pressure and you're a death gripper, hold your pencil back here, and that'll let you get really light pressure. If you want a medium pressure, hold your pencil in the center. And if you want a heavy pressure, hold it at the top. These come in handy too because you can think to yourself what kind of pressure you want, and you can move this to help kind of remind you where your hand is supposed to be for the pressure that you're trying to achieve. You won't always need to do that. Like I said, I've basically trained myself out of death gripping with weeks and weeks and weeks of practice. But in the meantime, these are really helpful, and I still use them because I feel like it makes the pencil more comfortable. So tip number 2, practice holding the pencil. You're going to hold it at the back for very light pressure, at the middle for medium pressure, and then up at the tip if you want a heavy pressure. So that's that. Tip number 3, use a sharp pencil and small circles. Alright, so this is where we'll actually get into this image that I have printed out. You want to use a sharp pencil because it's going to help you get down into that tooth of that paper. And I just, described it, the tooth of the paper. I'm sorry, the camera's moving. The tooth of the paper is like the little hills and valleys. It's the surface of the paper that grabs and holds on to the pigment in your pencil. The sharper your pencil is, the easier time you're going to have putting that pigment down into that tooth. So, you're going to start with a seriously sharp pencil. And I mean sharp. So you don't want a dull pencil, you want a sharp one. And then when you color, let me move my hand back so that you can see. When you color something, you're going to want to go in very small circles and in light layers, just like this. Remember at the beginning of this video, I said colored pencil was a slow medium. I was not kidding. If you want to get the absolute most out of them, this is exactly how it's done. And the reason you do this is because if you've ever, used your colored pencils and gone back and forth on something, like if you've ever colored like this, then you get to the point where you can see your lines and where they all meet. So if you're trying to avoid that, that's why you're doing this. Now there may be times where you want those lines to be visible, like if you're coloring fur or hair, and in which case you don't have to do the small circles. Otherwise, the small circles are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck because you're not going to be able to see all those little lines. Now see, now I can go back in with my next color, and this is the beginning of blending. I'm putting one color on top of another, just like that. Something else is your sharpener. Now, this is my sharpening jar. My mom bought these for me. They're so cute. And this is the sharpener that I use. This is a Maped sharpener, and I picked this up at Blick for 79 cents. And this is the best cheap little sharpener I've ever owned. When you sharpen, you don't want to do the hold your pencil in one hand, hold your sharpener in your in this hand, and hold your pencil in your dominant hand and twist the pencil, especially with a soft core pencil, because you're going to end up breaking it. What you do is you hold your pencil in your non-dominant hand and your sharpener in your dominant hand, and you move the sharpener around the pencil. And I'm going to tell you right now, it takes some getting used to, but it's worth it because you're going to break your pencil a whole lot less. And if you notice, I have a seriously sharp point, which is exactly what I want for making those tiny, tiny little circles and getting down in the tooth of that paper and getting my pretty little gradient and blend and shading with all these different colors. So, to wrap this tip up, you're going to want a really sharp pencil to avoid those visible lines. It helps get down in the tooth of the paper. You're going to want to apply very, very light pressure, and you're going to want to apply many different layers. And you want to use different colors if you want to achieve, blending and layering. And the reason is because let's say that you want something to be black. You're coloring a penguin and you want his feathers to be black. If you just go use black, it's not going to look very lifelike at all. It's not going to look very realistic. So if you're going for a more realistic look, you're going to want to try colors like purple and brown. Mix those two colors together, layer them over the top of each other, and it'll produce something that's very close to black, but it looks more realistic and more lifelike. And trust me, it just looks better. Black is one of my least used pencils for that very reason. Now, once you have all your layers down, like let's just assume, typically I'd put like 3 different colors in here and I'd have at least 6 layers. But let's just assume I'm finished. Okay, when you have your color the way you want it, what you want to do is you want to burnish that in some cases. And that's basically you're going to push the tooth of your paper down and so that you can't apply any more color. You're going to smash that tooth all the way down flat. And there are several ways that you can do that. One of the best ways is to use the lightest color in your blend, and you just use that and go over the whole area with heavy pressure, and it's going to give it a seamless look. So you're not going to see where, you know, this dark green meets this very, very light green. So that's another thing to remember. Okay, so that's pretty much all for that tip. So for tip number 4 is make color swatches. A lot of people find this incredibly boring, and to tell you the truth, I'm one of them. I do not enjoy making color swatches, but they are worth it, and I will show you why. Let me move all these out of the way, and my camera's wiggling again. Alright, it'll stop in a second. So this is a color chart for every set of colored pencils, watercolor pencils that I own. They're all in here. And basically what this does is, let's say that I'm coloring a picture of a flower, and I know that I want to make that flower pink, and I know that I want to put 4 different shades of pink into that flower, but I have no idea what pink I want to use. Well, I can refer to my color swatches and I can say, well, I can use this, 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 this. I could use a hot pink. I could use magenta as my darkest color. Or maybe I don't have a color in the Prismacolor Premier that I really enjoy. So I could come to this brand and, well, I like this pink, so I could use this pink from this set and this pink from this set down here, and that would make a pretty gradient. This will benefit you. This is going to save you time. Having your little color swatch book is going to save you so much time when it comes to picking what colors you want. And you don't have to have a piece of scrap paper with you all the time to scribble on to make sure that it's the color that you want. Unfortunately, a lot of times the color of the pencil isn't exactly the same color that's going to come out of that pencil. So you have to be really, really careful with that. It's easier for you to find your lights and mediums and darks that you want to put in your blends. It just saves you so much time. And when you get a new set of pencils and you sit down to swatch them out, you can familiarize yourself with those particular pencils. Are they soft? Are they hard? How do they react when you apply light pressure? How do they react when you apply hard pressure? So by the time you actually sit down to color something with them, you know exactly what you're going to be able to expect, and it's not such a surprise, and there's less of a chance that you're going to end up making mistakes. So that is a nice, quick tip, and one that I recommend, even though you may not like doing it and you may find it boring like me. Tip number. Hi guys, I'm really sorry about that. It appears we had a little bit of a brownout. We had one last night too. There was a thunderstorm that came through where I live, and the power went out just for a split second. It actually just went out for a little bit longer. That was really weird. Anyway, we'll get right back into it, and I want to apologize for the weird break in the video. The 5th tip is to watch videos. There are so many people on YouTube. This trend, the adult coloring trend, is massive. There are millions of people, and it's not just in the United States. It is all over the world. I have people who are members of my website who live in Hungary, who live in Sweden, who live in Iceland, who live in the Netherlands. These people literally are all over the world, and this is something that everybody is starting to do. So take advantage of YouTube. Go look up these colorists who take the time to go into some seriously in-depth tutorials and how-tos. And if you want to grab a piece of paper and a pencil really quick, pause this. I'm going to give you some names of some people to look up. Some of the people that I enjoy the most on YouTube. Number 1 is Peta Hewitt, and it's P-E-T-A, and her last name is H-E-W-I-T-T. And she is absolutely brilliant. This woman makes my coloring look like a kindergartner did it. And she sits down with you and shows you every color she uses, how she uses it, and how she gets things to look the way they look. I learned so much from Peta. It's absolutely insane. And as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be able to color as like I do today. Another one, Coloring Pages Bliss. That's Jennifer Jensen Stay and her husband Steve. They run an entire community as well. She's an artist, so she draws coloring pages. She has some of the absolute best tutorials, and she's like, she goes through it step by step by step. She explains how to do things. She explains why these things work. Again, if it wasn't for Jennifer, I probably wouldn't know half the things I know today. Another one, another good series, especially if you're really into everything art, like if you like to paint, if you like markers, is Art a la carte. And I swear this woman is so bubbly, and for the life of me, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, and I am so sorry. But if you just look up Art a la carte on YouTube, you'll find her. She is wonderful. She has an entire series on colored pencils, and I highly suggest that you add that to your queue and watch those videos. She is wonderful. Finally, another one that I think is really helpful is Cher Kaufmann. She goes more into the, I won't necessarily say spiritual side of things, but into the meditative side of things and how to use coloring as therapy, different ways of doing different things, how to blend, how to layer, how to do backgrounds. She even uses eyeshadow to color in backgrounds on her pages. So it's Cher, just like, you know, Cher, the famous Cher, Cher, and then I believe her last name is Kaufman, or it may be one F and two N's. I'm not entirely certain because I didn't write it down. I watch these ladies so much that I know them. Like, I feel like I physically know them and like we're friends because I spend so much time with them on my computer screen. This isn't something that you know, I understand that a lot of you guys have families and your entire family's not going to want to sit down with you in the evening and watch YouTube videos of people coloring. These are videos that I watch while I'm coloring. So I will be sitting here at my desk with my supplies, and I'll be working on my picture, and I'll have a video that from one of these ladies that I've subscribed to playing in the background, and I'll just look up whenever I hear something interesting going on and kind of watch what's happening. And if I find it really interesting, I will stop what I'm doing and devote my attention to that person. Guys, this is how I've learned everything I know, is all these wonderful people that I've just mentioned to you. I feel like my job, without stepping on any of their toes, is just to kind of sum up everything I've learned from all these awesome people and bring it to you guys. And that's kind of the goal of my channel, is to help people who are newer to coloring or who are newer to art, and who don't know what to buy or how to get started or whether what they have is going to work. And you know, that's what I'm trying to do, is summarize all these videos. But you can go watch them too. So all those names I just gave you, plug them into YouTube, subscribe to them, watch them when you have a chance. You're going to learn so much, and you'll absolutely amaze yourself. I mean, like, literally the same day you watch some of these videos, your coloring is going to improve tenfold. My next tip, this is going to seem stupid, but it's really not, I assure you, is to color in comfort. What I mean by this is, don't go sit down at your kitchen table in a hard chair, hunched over your paper, and sit there like that for 3 hours coloring, because your body is going to hate you for it. And I don't care if you're 18 or 88, your body's not going to like you very much. What you're going to want to do is, if coloring is your passion, you are going to want to set aside somewhere in your house that is just for that. You don't have to get, you know, you don't have to like go, you know, move the furniture out of the back porch, and you don't have to, you know, rearrange all your furniture or anything like that. Honestly, guys, it doesn't take a lot of room. Someday I'll give you like a virtual tour of my desk. I work at a very small L-shaped desk. I also work from home. I'm a content writer. So my desk, I spend like 18 hours a day here sometimes between writing and coloring. Everything that I need, everything that I use, and trust me, I have a lot of stuff, is at my small L-shaped desk. So pick yourself a place, whether it's in a recliner whether it's on your back porch in a nice comfy wicker chair, whether it's at a drafting table that you've got in the corner of your bedroom. Pick yourself a dedicated spot for coloring and make it your own. Make sure it's comfortable. Find a good chair. Go to yard sales. Pick yourself up a good desk chair that's going to support your back, that's going to give you a place to rest your head, that's going to let you lean back if that's what you like to do, whatever it takes for you to be comfortable. Little things like these little pencil grips. These changed my life when I started putting these on my colored pencils, and I know that's why I bought 20 of them, because rarely do I ever use more than 20 colored pencils in a single piece. So I have enough that I can pop one onto every colored pencil that I'm using, and these things make my life so much better. I'm literally kicking myself for not thinking of this sooner. Definitely invest in stuff like this. Let's see, what else did I make notes? Don't death grip your pencil. We've already talked about that. If you're a death gripper, try to remind yourself not to do that. Consciously remind yourself not to death grip your pencil and release your pressure. It takes some time. Trust me, I was there with you, but you will get there. Remember ergonomics. Don't try to put your paper that you're coloring, too high or too low where you either have to reach or slouch. Try to put it at a place that's easier for you to get to. Instead of leaving your work flat when you're coloring, like this, and I do it so I'm not like making you guys dizzy, but as you color, you don't have to do this. Pick up your paper, turn it around to where you get a good angle where you feel like that makes you comfortable, and go for it. And then turn it this way if you need to turn it completely upside down, and then go for that too. That's all part of being comfortable. Another thing I want to touch on while we are on this particular subject, I have had a couple of people tell me that as moms, they can't justify spending money on art supplies, and they can't justify taking time away from their families to do something like coloring that is just for them. And I'm going to tell you, yes, you absolutely can justify it. I know a lot of us have husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, significant others, whatever we might have, who enjoy playing video games after work. And I know that's a big one. My boyfriend is all about Call of Duty. And the way I see it and the way I try to look at it is, if he can sit down and play a video game after a long day of work, and if he can spend money on new video games and new consoles, and the $15 a month subscription or whatever it is to play that game, I can justify spending some money on myself as well. And so can you. And I need you guys to try to think about it like that. Don't think about it as you're taking something away from your family. Now, of course, if you're faced with a decision, are you going to buy groceries? Or are you going to buy colored pencils? Buy the groceries. I'm not telling you, to go spend your last year, your rent money on your colored pencils, because that's just irresponsible and I would never do that. But instead of spending all of your extra money on your husband or your kids, do something for yourself. And if you haven't gotten into adult coloring yet and you're still wondering whether or not it's something that you really want to do often, I'm going to challenge you to color for an hour every day for 2 weeks. And I want you to kind of jot down before you start how you're feeling about life in general. Are you grumpy a lot of the time? Do you feel tired a lot of the time? Do you feel like you're getting run over because you're always busy? That kind of thing. And then after you've colored an hour a day for 2 weeks, think about how you feel then. Are you happier? Do you feel more relaxed and at peace? I bet you do. And I bet that whatever money you put into it, even if it's to spend the $25 to go buy a box of Scholars, and, $10 to buy a coloring book from a professional artist, a total of $35, maybe $40 if you're paying shipping, $40 in 2 weeks, and you're going to be a changed person. This has made me such a happier person just because it's my time. And I don't have to worry about everybody else while I'm coloring. People know it's my time. My kids know it's my time. My boyfriend knows it's my time. They don't bother me unless it's an emergency. So I have, a really supportive family in that regard. So guys, if you are having trouble justifying, spending money on things, or even taking the time out of your busy day to do it, it is justified, and I challenge you to do it an hour a day for 2 weeks. And then once you've done that, bookmark this video if you have to. Come back and tell me how you feel 2 weeks later, because I bet things are going to be a lot different for you. So when I say color and comfort, I don't mean just physical comfort. I also mean mental comfort, in peace, in the knowledge that you're not doing anything wrong by taking an hour out of your day to make yourself happy. So this is an important tip. Number 7, we're going to get back into some technical stuff again after that long, sappy talk I just gave you. Number 7 is basic light and shadow. This is probably something that's going to help you make your pictures look nicer right off the bat. Alright, so basically what this involves, let me find a pen. Somewhere in your image, right? We're gonna find a light source. You're gonna decide where the light bulb or the sun is, wherever you want to put it. That's totally your choice. So for my picture, let's say that the sun is coming from this direction. Okay, I'm even on my page. The sun's coming from this way. So when I do my lights and shadows, I want to remember that everything up here is going to be a little lighter. So like this leaf, the tip's going to be lighter and the bottom is going to be darker. And it's pretty simple to remember. So what I do when I color is I use 3 different shades for every object, at least 3, sometimes more, but at least 3. So I have a light green, a middle green, and a darker green. And when I color this particular leaf, I'm going to first, and I'm probably not going to do the whole thing, I'm just going to explain to you how to do it. I first go over the whole area with my lightest color. Alright? So we're going to go over this whole thing with this very light green. Matter of fact, let's just kind of cheat a little. We'll do the side of it. Don't color like this, guys. Don't, please. This is just so I can hurry through this. Remember, you're going to want to use your little bitty circles and very light pressure. Even for things like this, it may take you an hour to color this leaf, but trust me, it'll be worth it. Then you're going to think, okay, well, let's get the medium. The sunlight's coming from here, so this part's going to be highlighted, and this is going to be where my shadow is going to start. So you're going to kind of, with really light pressure, mark off the area where your shadowed area is going to start, and then you're going to color that section in the medium color. You're going to color this whole thing. All of this is going to be in the medium color. So that's going to designate where your shadowed area is based on where your light source is that you chose. So all this is going to be your medium color, which we would assume, we can say this is the normal color of the leaf. The light color is the highlighted color. This is what happens when the sunshine hits it really, really bright, or the light bulb, or whatever your light source is. This is because the light's hitting it really bright. Alright, this is because this is the normal color of the leaf, is this color. And then your darkest color is going to be where it's in shadow. So that's going to be way down here at the bottom, where it's kind of tucked in around all these other leaves. So that's going to be your absolute darkest color. Now this looks terrible, and I'm not saying that it doesn't. That's why I don't color like this. I color in very small circles and very light layers. So for blending, I'm going to do that on here. Let's start with a rectangle, a very poorly drawn rectangle. And I'm going to fill this whole rectangle in with this really light green. You know what? Let me zoom in. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, but I'm going to fill this entire rectangle in with this light green with very light pressure. You're going to see a lot of white space in the paper left behind, and that's fine. That's exactly what you want, as a matter of fact. You want to be able to see that white space showing through. Alright, then about 2/3 of the way up, I'm going to switch to my medium green. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go as light as I possibly can at first. And then as I get closer to the center, I'm going to gradually increase my pressure. And I'm still, you know, going in those little circles. Alright, now I'm going to increase my pressure a little bit. We don't want to go heavy though, because we still have another color to put in this. So we're going to take this color all the way down to the bottom. And what's going to happen, and the reason that we're doing this, because you might think, well, you know, why don't you just put your light color here, your medium color here, and your dark color here? And the reason, once again, is depth of color. If you have layers of color, by the time you get to your shadow, it's going to look so much more realistic than if you just use that one particular color. So now we're going to use the darkest color, and we're going to put that at the bottom of the rectangle. And again, we're going to use, this is going to look terrible, like I said, because if I try to do this perfectly, you'd be here for an hour. But I'm trying to show you the gist of it. So you just color this part of this rectangle in the darkest color, and you want the very bottom of it to be the darkest part. So you're going to use your heavy pressure down there, and you're going to gradually lighten up on your pressure as you move toward the middle. Now, right now you can see that there's a line here and there's a line here. So you're going to throw things around. You're going to take your lightest pencil again, and you're going to use your little circles, and you're going to use like a medium pressure now. You're going to use your little circles, and you're going to go back over the first two sections. You're going to go over the medium and the light with the light again, just like this. And then you're going to take your medium color, and you're going to go just, maybe about halfway down where the medium is. What you're doing at this point, your goal is to hide those lines, to mask the lines where the colors meet one another. So that's exactly what we're going to do with this. That's why we're going back over it with all these different layers. So we want heavy pressure over where the line is that the two meet. And we're going to lighten the pressure back up as we get up closer to the lighter section. And then once again with the dark color, these pencil things like to slide around. You're going to start with a heavier pressure down here at the bottom. And you're going to slowly lighten it up just a little until you hit the middle. And then once you've got those layers on there, it's kind of up to you to judge, where are the lines most visible, where do you need some more color, and your goal should be to have all these colors blend together seamlessly. And you don't really want to see the place where they all meet each other. You want it to look like they've kind of melted together, just like that. And that's basically how you do blending and shading. Sorry guys, my camera is backwards because of the way I'm trying to do it. So, I mean, you can see each of the individual colors in that, but you can't see like a hard line where they crash up against each other. And that's what you want in your coloring books. And that's why I say use light pressure and small circles, so you can get, this is like 6 or 7 layers of color down here. And if you use really heavy pressure, you wouldn't be able to achieve that. So use light pressure. Do this when you blend. Use at least 3 different colors, a light, a medium, and a dark. And remember to use your own best judgment to cover up those lines where your colors meet. And you're going to do that by coloring the light over the whole thing, the medium over 2/3, and the dark over 1/3. And that's about as simple as it possibly gets. And so when it comes to light and shadow, let me zoom back out a little. So when it comes to light and shadow, you're going to remember that this is your light source. It's coming from this way. So this area is going to be light, and as you move this way on your object, it's going to start to get darker. So you're going to blend just like I showed you, but you're going to put your darker color here, your medium color here, and your light color here. And that's about as simple as it gets. Now, if you ask other artists, they're going to say, oh, well, what about reflective light? I don't worry about any of that. I don't want to go to art school. I just want to make my pictures look nice. So if you know about reflective light, color theory, what color the light's going to be once it bounces off the ground and back up on the underside of the leaf, you feel free to employ that in your coloring books. And if you want to share that with other people, please do. I find it very complicated, so I just don't do it. But I feel like this gives me enough of a, I wouldn't say professional, but I think it looks nice. So that's why I do it. Basic light and shadow is important. Number 8, try some tools of the trade. A lot of adult colors when we get started, and I know I was the same way. I went to Walmart, I bought a package of Crayola colored pencils and 2 coloring books, and I brought them home. And I was happy with that for the longest time. Then I started watching these YouTube videos with Peta Hewitt and Cher Kaufmann and Jennifer Jensen Stay at Coloring Pages Bliss, and I thought, I can't do these things. I'm trying to do these things, but they're not working for me, and I don't know why. It was part of it was because my pencils were subpar. They're student quality pencils, and they weren't meant to do that kind of stuff. And the other part of it was that I lacked half the things that they were using to make their art look nice. When I say tools of the trade, there are a few different things that I am referring to. For example, This is an electric eraser, and you guys are going to see this a lot on my channel if you go back and watch any of my other videos. This is one of the best things ever. I think I paid $7 for this on Amazon. Basically, it's a battery-powered eraser. When you push the little button that's here on the side, it makes this spin, and it takes off color in very, very tiny areas, and it's just wonderful. It came with 20 extra erasers, and basically you just slide that little top out like that, and you pull the eraser up when it gets short, and then you just replace the eraser the same way. It came with 20 extras, which will probably last me for a year, and you just put it back in there. That's really all there is to it. $7. This thing will quickly become one of your best friends. If you go outside the lines, you just take it and use it to clean up your edge, and that's, it's awesome. It's much, much better than a pencil eraser or a pink eraser that's going to smudge your work and make you cry. Trust me, I've been there and I've done that. Don't use a pink eraser. If you can't afford one of these, or if you don't want to order one, at least go to your local Walmart or wherever and pick up a white polymer eraser. Pentel makes some that are really cheap. I think it's like $2 for 3 white erasers. At least use those. They make the ones that go on the caps of your pencils too, if you want to buy those. Those are nice also. You're not going to get as much precision as you will out of this, but it won't smudge your, it's not as likely to smudge your paper. It's basically the same material eraser that this is. But I do highly recommend an electric eraser. Another tool that I recommend nobody goes without is called a colorless blender. This one's made by Prismacolor. It's kind of short, so the Prismacolor is worn off. But if you look at it, it says PC 1077. Over here it says colorless, and I know that's probably a little bit blurry. But basically what this is it's the same thing as my Prismacolor Premier Colored Pencil, except it doesn't have any color in it. It's colorless. So when you apply it, well, let's do it on here. When you apply it to your image that you're coloring, what it's going to do is move all the color together. Hold on just a second, because I'm going to do something else for you too. So let me just divide this in half. I'm going to take my colorless blender here to this top section, and I'm going to start at the dark area and just kind of watch what happens. Now guys, I'm going to be straight with you. These don't work very well with like Crayolas and Prangs and whatnot because they don't have enough pigment in them to really move it around. But if you buy things like the Prismacolor Scholars, they do work quite well, even with those. Some people have some luck with them with Crayolas. Before you use a colorless blender, before you attempt to do this, you should first have several layers of color down, because if you try to use this blender without very many layers, you're not going to have enough wax to move around, and it's just not going to work for you. So if you look at this, you can tell a huge difference. Look at that. We went from looking rough and having all that empty white space to now we have this nice smooth transition of color. This is a wonderful tool. This is one that I suggest you guys absolutely do not go without. You can buy 4 of these online for $5 right now. They're 2-packs. One 2-pack is $4.27. 2 2-packs is $5. And so I always, when I see these cheap, I stock up, and I have like probably 10 of them in my drawer right now. So definitely order some of these. You can find these on Amazon. I will put a link in the description to them if I can find the one for the $5. And so if this is something you're interested in, find that link, because that's a really good deal. Another thing that I like, and I don't use it as much as the colorless blender because it's messy, I'll show it to you anyway, is something called Odorless Mineral Spirits. And I have it labeled on my canning jar here as OMS. Basically what this is kind of like diluted paint thinner. A lot of people know it by the brand name Gamsol. I bought Gamsol. This was the very first odorless mineral spirits I bought because this is what I kept seeing in videos. And then I learned that there is no need to buy expensive Gamsol unless you prefer it. I do like Gamsol, but this is the Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits that was about half the price of Gamsol for the same size bottle on Amazon, and it works just as well. Let's talk a little bit about odorless mineral spirits before I send you guys off to play with paint thinner. It's odorless, but it's not harmless. So when you pop the top off this, it's not going to reek like paint thinner or turpentine or anything. It really doesn't have a whole lot of smell, and it's perfectly clear. However, it does have fumes. You just can't smell them. So don't breathe this junk in. You know, when you use it, open it, do what you need to do with it, and put the lid back on. Store it in glass if possible, especially if it comes in a glass bottle. Make sure that you store it back in a glass bottle when you're finished. It's got kind of a greasy feel, and it'll feel greasy when you put it on your paper too, and it might turn your paper a little bit gray, but it will dry, and it dries very, very quickly, and that's another reason why you always want to keep the lid on so it doesn't all evaporate. Basically what I do, and you might not be able to see me doing this, but let me see if I can do it on camera. My ball jar is a little bit cumbersome. You guys might have something else. Just make sure wherever you keep it, it's good and secure. This is a blending stump, guys. This is just a roll. It's like pressed paper, basically. And pencil artists use it to blend their different grades of graphite together so that they can make a seamless drawing. I use it for colored pencils, and hold on, if you notice, if you can see it, there's some color left over on the ends of it from the last time I used it, so give me just a second. This is just regular old sandpaper, and I bought these at Walmart. There was five of the stumps and 5 tortillas, which are hollow rolled up pieces of paper that come to a finer point for like $3.50. You can find them cheaper on Amazon, but if you're kind of in a hurry to give it a shot, just head over to Walmart and grab some, $3.50. These last a long time. When you have color like that on the end of them, you don't want to dip it in your mineral spirits and then go onto your image because you're going to smear that color. So basically what you're going to do is just take it to your sandpaper, and this is not any special sandpaper. This is sandpaper sheets meant to fit a sander. I picked them up at Walmart for like $1.50 for like 6 sheets, and this is all you need. I like fine grit because it helps me get a sharper point back on my stump. You'll see artists with the little paddle boards with the sheets of sandpaper you can tear off. Guys, that's more money than you really need to spend. If you find a good deal on something like that, by all means, pick it up. But it's not necessary. You can just use regular sandpaper. Now with this, what I do is I'll take my odorless mineral spirits and I'll dip my stump down in it. Alright? So now you can see where I've got that stump saturated. And that's why I like these stumps, because it's not going to let, it's not like, you can use a paintbrush, but you're going to have to be really careful because it can run all over the place and you make a mess. Please don't smoke or, you know, use open fire or anything when you're using odorless mineral spirits. It's a bad idea. Alright, now, in this case, instead of going from dark to light, I'm going to go from light to dark so I can preserve my area of highlight. And you're going to do this just like you did with that colorless blender. And you're just going to rub it all on the paper. Now, the difference between the odorless mineral spirits and the colorless blender, even though the results are pretty much comparable, you don't have to have as many layers of color if you're using the blending stump instead of the colorless blender, because the odorless mineral spirits is a liquid, and it basically what it's doing is breaking down all that wax and binder and letting you move that pigment around. So if you are on a budget, and let's say that you go out and you bought a package of 48 Prismacolor Premier Color pencils, and you want those colored pencils to last as long as humanly possible, you could put on like a really light layer of your colors and then blend them out with your blending stump and Gamsol. It's going to provide you with a nice look. Now, like I said before, with a colorless blender, it's different because you need a lot more layers of color before that blender is going to work real good for you. So this is another option. There are sometimes I will use both of these in the same image, because in one spot I don't want real heavy saturated color, but in another spot I do. So if I only want a thin layer, I will use this. If I want a heavy layer, I will use the blender. Another thing about Gamsol that makes it different, or odorless mineral spirits that makes it different from the colorless blender, you can burnish with your colorless blender. And like I said before, burnish means you're pushing the tooth of the paper flat so that you can move all your colors together and get rid of the white space. You do the same thing with Gamsol, but you don't have to use nearly as much pressure. And when you're finished and when it's dry, you can go back and add another layer. So if you get to a point in your image where it's not taking any more color because you've saturated the paper, you can go in with some Gamsol and just go over it, let it dry, and then add another layer. Now that's not infinite. There's going to come a point where you can't add anything else to that particular image, but it does work fairly well, and it can save you if if you've forgotten to add a layer of your darkest color and you really need to. So that's always an option too. So that's three of the tools of the trade. That's the electric eraser, the colorless blender, the odorless mineral spirits, and the blending stumps, or a paintbrush, but just be very careful if you choose to use a paintbrush. And then the final one that I wanted to talk to you guys about is going to be a white gel pen. There are white gel pens in some of the gel pen sets that you can grab like at Walmart and Hobby Lobby and whatnot. I recommend either this one, which is a Sakura Jelly Roll. These are at Hobby Lobby. I think they're like 3 for $5, and they're nice. They're nice and thick. They're not like the cheapo gel pens that you get in sets. This is like really super thick, and there's a lot of gel in it. There's also the Uni rollerball gel pens that you can use that work really nice, and they're actually more opaque than this one. And then there's the Uni Posca paint pen, which will work also, although they're more expensive than either of the other options. Now, just to show you what gel pen does, we'll go back to this image, and I'll pull this up, and I'm going to zoom in just a little. If you look at this part, right, this is where I tried to make it look like silver, like actual real metal. The rest of it, I just wanted to have like a brown antique finish. This part and then these little balls up here, I actually wanted them to kind of look a little reflective. And I think I accomplished that pretty well. I went in with 2 different shades of gray, and I did the shadow and light part to kind of represent the little grooves in there. And then I took my white Jelly Roll pen and I went in a couple little spots, just like right here and down here, and just added a little bit of gel pen, and it makes it look like these parts are reflecting while these parts are in shadow. And the same thing with these little balls. I put white at the very edge so that it looks like this part is reflecting the light while this part is in shadow. And so, I mean, it's just a really simple, really cool little trick to add more depth and definition to your images without really struggling with colored pencil. I haven't found a coloring book yet that will not accept the Jelly Roll. It doesn't bleed through or anything, so this is my favorite one. I know a lot of other colorists prefer the Uni Posca paint pen. Personally, I've never tried one, so I may love it myself. I just haven't tried one yet. So those are your 4 tools. If you want to write them down one more time, they are an electric eraser, or at the very least, a white polymer eraser. Sometimes people call it a plastic eraser. Just make sure it's white. A colorless blender. I prefer the one from Prismacolor. Other companies make them. I like Prismacolors the best. I haven't found a pencil that it doesn't work with yet. Odorless mineral spirits. There's many brands, Mona Lisa, Gamsol, whatever you happen to find wherever you are. And your paper blending stumps. And then, of course, a white gel pen, because that's going to help you get more, that's going to go back to the light and shadow. It's going to help you get more reflection. All right, guys. Number 9, the ABCs of coloring. And we've already covered most of this. This was kind of like a final thought that I had this morning. I've been planning this video for a while. ABC, always be coloring. All right, I know you can't always be coloring. I know you're probably busy and you have other things to do, and I totally understand that. Even if you only have like 5 minutes out of your day, you have 5 minutes that you're, waiting for your pasta to finish boiling on the stove, or, you're sitting in line waiting to pick your kid up from school, pull out a coloring book and some colored pencils and practice. Whenever you can fit it in, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if it's just to color one tiny little leaf. I found that if I don't color for a while and then I try to come back to it, it almost seems like I've forgotten some of the things that I used to be able to do fairly well. So that's something I pretty much challenged myself to do, is if I have a few spare minutes and I don't have anybody depending on me for anything, even if I'm just taking a break and walking out of the kitchen into my bedroom, I'll color a leaf. I'll color, like one of those little balls or something, or, I'll color this little flower really quick. Always be coloring, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if that's all you can fit in. It's going to benefit you in a whole lot of ways. All right, guys, last tip. Last one. We're almost there. This is the most important tip. The most important thing I'm going to tell you all day is that there is absolutely no wrong way to color. If you are somebody who likes to shove your pencil down into the paper and, you know, the death grip, like I've been referring to it, if that's what you prefer and that's what you like, by all means do it. Don't let anybody tell you it's wrong. You can color anything, any way you want to, any color you want to. That's the freedom of it. That's what makes coloring such an awesome, therapeutic, relaxing activity, is you can do whatever you want to do, and there's nobody to tell you any different because it's your picture, it's your art, you're the one doing it. Do things how you want to do them. If you choose to join one of the millions of adult coloring groups on Facebook, there are some that people share their art, and there's like hundreds of new images that people have colored being posted all day. You're going to see a wide variety of talent. You're going to see some people who color and their images look like they should be hanging in an art gallery somewhere. You're going to see some other people who, when they color, to most people, it's going to look like a child colored it. I don't say this to be rude. I say this because people like to do things in different ways. Some people enjoy coloring something quickly without putting all the time and effort into it, and there is nothing wrong with that. For some people, spending all the time to learn how to blend and shade and, you know, picking up all the things, all the tools that we talked about, that stresses them out. There are people that absolutely stresses them out and they just don't want to do it, and that is fine. And that's, you know, so they'll hurry up, they'll take their colored pencil and they'll, you know, make great big lines and they'll hurry up and color. And, you know, to you it may look like somebody, you know, a school child did it, but to me it looks like that person had a great time coloring this image. When you see the images that look like they should be hanging in art museums somewhere, those are people who have insane amount of patience. It probably took them weeks to color that image, and it's taken me over a week to color an image before. I have learned patience through adult coloring. It has taught me patience I did not have before. So this, how you choose to do things, whether you choose to follow the tips that I provided to you today in this video, or whether you choose to just continue doing it the way you've always done it because you enjoy it, is totally up to you. In the end, the most important thing is that if you are going to sit down and spend your precious time coloring, it needs to make you happy, no matter what you choose to do. Guys, that's all I got for you today. I know this video was a whole lot longer than most of my videos are, and I really am sorry for that, but I did want to address a bunch of things that people have brought up to me. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I do a video once a week at a minimum. Sometimes I'll do more if I have the time. Generally, I'll do things like product reviews and unboxings, color. I'm going to go through some coloring books soon. I'm going to show you guys some of my finished images. I've got people asking me to do color alongs with the Prismacolors, all kinds of cool things. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead down below, click that subscribe button and hit the little bell so that when I do something else, you're going to get a notification that I have a new video for you. Head over to Facebook and find Simple Art for Adults and like that page. That's where I put links to blogs and whatnot. And of course, my blogs themselves are at simpleartforadults.com, and that's where all my blogs are. I've got some grayscale coloring pages for sale there that my boyfriend takes photos and then edits them out for you guys to color. They're really inexpensive. So yeah, go ahead and check all those things out. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Goodbye.